We're rolling, baby. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
Yeah. First podcast for you.
First podcast, fresh into Bayview, Idaho.
Yeah.
Loving it.
Yeah. So for everybody listening, I get to sit down with somebody that's known me my entire life, Tom Miller. He rode his motorcycle all the way out here from Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania, and he's done a full loop, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And then, I don't know, just kind of bullshit and share some stories maybe. Yeah. We always share stories, but we never really get to I don't know, we obviously never record them or anything, but, you know, there's so many stories that we just even talked about this morning. And
the good ones you never get tired of talking
that's true.
about.
Yeah, you can tell them over and over again.
Right, good stories are good stories.
Yeah. So what did you, so tell us a little bit about like the trip coming out here.
Well, we traveled with Union Iron Workers Motorcycle Club. We left Pittsburgh, 3 of us. There's guys coming from all over the country, but from Pittsburgh we had 3 guys riding together. Took 4 days to get across the country. Had to stop in Reno to get some service done at the bike shop. Made it into Paso Robles, California. Hung out there for a few days. And then I cut north for Roseburg, Oregon. Visited my nephew. That was about a 600-mile ride up from Paso. And then I cut over to east to Jackson, Wyoming to visit Will's family, which I've known all of Will's life, and probably the last 30, 35 years.
Yeah, 35 years at least.
Hung out there for a few days, and then kind of went away from Pittsburgh again, up to north of Coeur d'Alene, Bayview, Idaho. First time ever up this way. I've been through Coeur d'Alene before, but never in Bayview.
Yeah.
And
did you ever come up to Sandpoint for any of those football games or anything back in high school?
Been to Havre.
Well,
I don't think I've been to Sandpoint.
None of the,
none
of the high school games.
I've been to one high school game. It was frozen. The field was frozen.
Oh, that was in Post Falls. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the farthest I've been.
Yeah.
So, it's a beautiful area of the country, and some surprises when I got here. An old friend from decades ago I never expected to see answered the door when I got here, so that was a pretty cool surprise. Yeah,
Jessup.
Yeah,
so
that was awesome.
And then we got to go out. I guess that was last night. Seems like we're cramming a lot of stuff in a short time, which is what you got to do.
Well, it's what we always do, kind of.
Yeah,
you know, you kind of meet up and you run wide open for a few days or a week or so, whatever you can get, and you move on. You know, and it's more series of stories created.
Yep.
We'll talk about them next time we meet.
Yeah, definitely. We got to go out on the sailboat for a little bit. We took Tom out and Jessup and Waylon, and we went out on the boat for a little bit. There wasn't much wind going out there. We took them over kind of to some cliffs and hung out at the cliffs for a little bit, did a little bit of fishing, just hung out. It's just, I think, kind of a unique way to see the lake, and especially on a sailboat.
Definitely. I got some lessons on, always like to learn, especially technical end of things, and learned a little bit like the crash course on sailing, and a lot of rigging, and it's a real busy kind of boating, but it's a peaceful, quiet boating, and it was a total surprise to me and super enjoyable.
Yeah.
And I was impressed. I was impressed at the knowledge you've gathered and the time you've been doing that, and it was really enjoyable.
I think what I was drawn to with sailing was, you had mentioned this, that when you get on a motorboat and you just kind of, you open the throttle and you're driving around, that's kind of it. That's kind of the whole thing, but with sailing, you're constantly checking on stuff. You're looking at how the sails are trimmed, where the wind's coming from. You're also reading your environment. You're reading the water surface. You have stuff to do.
It's technical.
Keeps you busy.
It is busy, but it's enjoyable because the whole time you're out there working, quote unquote,
right?
It's super peaceful, beautiful around here, and it really took me by surprise at how much there is to enjoy in that kind of boating. And the only other kind of boating I've ever done was motor powered, and which is fun too. But this adds a whole new dimension, a huge dimension to boating.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Well, I would expect that, we told you some of our future goals. Obviously, on the most intense side, that would be doing some kind of ocean crossing, either Atlantic crossing or something like that. But somewhere before that, I'm sure there'll be just some general like cruising, maybe down to the Bahamas. Would you be somebody that maybe I could call, if I needed like some crew for like a week to ride around in the Bahamas? I know that's a tough, like.
Well, I think I would give up my life to help you out. If it had to be cruising through the Bahamas, that's just what you do for friends.
That's what you do for friends. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
man.
that would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not a bad way to travel around. And, we always say that, like, the ocean is the doorstep to the world, and you can do it rather, fairly inexpensively via sailboat. You can go see a lot of countries from the ocean. Think of all the countries. I know the numbers out there, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. But all of the countries that border the ocean, right, that you could really travel and go see.
And don't forget, that's the end result of a sail is the countries you're sailing to. But there's a lot of ocean and experiences between to enjoy.
100%, yeah.
And experience and soak in and learn from. There's a lot of real estate between coasts.
Yeah, and like for me, growing up in the mountains and hunting and fishing and, being around water, but mostly rivers and lakes and stuff like that, and a little bit of time with the ocean, but even my short experience on the ocean was mostly, fishing with my dad or something like that. Not a lot of like deep sea stuff. And so I think it must just be in my makeup or, of maybe that wonder of what is the big open ocean like? Like, to me, that's a whole nother wilderness I haven't even gotten into yet.
I think that's a basic human drive, is to wonder what's next, to see what's over the horizon, see what's on the other side of that huge expanse of water.
Sure.
Where years and years and eons ago, our descendants have struck out not knowing.
Yeah.
And just hoped there was something better or something at least they could survive once they got there. And it's a curiosity that is cool to explore.
Well, it's driven mankind to do all kinds of things, from going to space to, like you said, finding new worlds.
Absolutely.
On this planet.
Absolutely. Oh, I have just a question for your way.
Yeah.
And talk about the working your way up to a big like Atlantic crossing, but being so close to the West Coast, why wouldn't you sail in the Pacific? Why would it be the Atlantic?
Yeah. I guess there's no real answer for that because there's routes on both sides that I think are interesting in their cruiser routes. One of them being like you could go to maybe from the West Coast, like Seattle area, which is only 5 hours from us, to Hawaii. That would be like your first stop. And then from Hawaii down to like Tahiti and French Polynesian Islands in the South Pacific. And then from there, you can decide which way you want to go from there.
Yeah. Cool.
The Pacific is a huge ocean. I mean, that is I guess I hear more stories of people crossing the Atlantic.
Just because it's more attainable.
I guess so. I don't know. There's no real reason why I wouldn't want to do either one because even
maybe both eventually.
Maybe both. Because if you're doing the Atlantic crossing, there are stops you can do also, like some people, especially if they're leaving from the Bahamas or let's say South Florida, they'll go to Bermuda and then from Bermuda go to the Azores. And then, so there's like some short stops that you can get to, in between there.
Before you take that big jump.
Well, they're kind of, I guess they're not equally spread out because obviously Bermuda from South Florida, I don't know how many nautical miles it is, but the big jump, I think it's like, I want to say like 1,200 nautical miles from maybe Bermuda to the Azores, which is, that's a big distance to travel.
Is that straight west of Bermuda? Or, I mean, east, I'm sorry.
It would be, it's more like northeast. Yeah. It's kind of up at an angle if you're traveling.
Yeah, but there's a lot of real estate between them and
Africa
or
for sure,
or Europe, depends on what.
Yeah, then from
course
the
you take.
Azores, then you could go maybe head into the Mediterranean or something, you know, and explore the Mediterranean. I mean, all of these, the planet's so big, and some of these people, you might have this idea of doing maybe a circumnavigation or like really explore, but some people get to maybe the Mediterranean and they just love the Med, and they spend the rest of their life just sailing around the Med and enjoying those countries, and that's just where they want to be. You know, they don't really have any other desire to maybe go further.
How many countries border the Mediterranean?
I couldn't tell you. Could you tell me?
No.
Okay.
No.
Maybe somebody listening could.
That's why I asked the question.
No, I don't know.
But it seems like lots of options.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, all of Europe and Italy and
Greece,
and yeah, there's a ton of history over there too.
Yeah.
That would just be really neat. And unlike our side of the world, where we tear down a lot of old stuff, they keep all that stuff, and there's a lot of cool history to go see. And I don't know. Yeah, I guess sailing has just piqued my interest, and as a way to travel and explore and sort of be. Like I've said before, I like the idea of being kind of self-reliant. I mean, you're being powered off the wind, and if something goes wrong out there, it's on you. You got to be resourceful. There's just a whole giant side of adventure to it. And I've started reading a lot of books on guys that are. I'm really like, I get super captivated in solo circumnavigations. I've been reading a lot of like A Voyage for Madmen. Was one that I started reading. Well, I finished the book, but that was that kicked me off. And that was 1968 or 69 when they did the first race around the world. Nonstop solo, so no stopping, by yourself.
Wow.
Yeah. And Sir Robin Knox Johnson ended up doing that. He was the first man to go around the world nonstop. But yeah, and so I just finished his book called A Voyage of My Own. That was just a great book. It's just something that just draws. You
hit the nail on the head when you said you got to be resourceful, because it's all on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even with your sailing in the group, it's within that group. I mean,
sure.
You make it happen, or it isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's like. Definitely the buck stops here.
Yeah.
You get it done, or you don't make it.
Yeah.
And don't want to think about that.
Well, another cool thing with maybe that lifestyle, like cruising or something like that, is a lot of times these groups of boats, like I mentioned, will kind of gather together, let's say in the Bahamas or something, and they'll kind of work through different anchorages and stuff like that. And they'll kind of form their own communities in a sense, because a lot of these people are even raising their kids on the boats. Wow. And these kids are just so worldly, and I've talked to some people, even some folks out here in the marina that have been out and kind of met some of these, they've gone out and cruised through the Bahamas and done that kind of stuff, and they said that most of these kids that they meet from these cruising families are some of the most polite kids you've ever met. They're just very polite, just worldly, just seem to kind of have a different maybe maturity or view of things. And most of those kids, they're hanging around adults like all the time, so.
Good character building.
Definitely.
For making good adults.
Yeah. But.
Responsible adults,
Well, and with not a narrow view of how the world works. Not
from one point of view. You're seeing it from many points of view.
Many points of view, yeah. But these communities, let's say we're all anchored up together in a bay or something, and every morning at 9 a.m. someone comes over the radio and they say, hey, good morning, everybody. Today at 10 a.m., Jessica's going to be she's going to be teaching some yoga over on the beach if anybody wants to go do that. I think Jim on his boat, if you play an instrument, he's doing like stuff on his boat with instruments. Jack, he is a ex-history teacher, so if any of your kids want to jump in, he's going to do history lesson. Like these communities, they're like these like little nomadic communities that just all pitch in something, like maybe it's a mechanical thing and saying like, hey, Rob's really good at diesel, He's an ex-diesel mechanic. You know, if you guys got issues, he volunteered to maybe take a look at some stuff.
Everybody got some knowledge to pass on.
Yeah,
and if it's knowledge, it's useful to somebody at some point in time.
For sure.
So it's worthwhile to pass it on and to absorb it if that be the case, you know.
Well, and that's something that, you know, now I get to have a different perspective now. It's really cool. I get to sit and talk with you, and just every time I see you, you know, as I've gotten older and I think about all the stuff that you've shared with me and all the knowledge that you have. I mean, you talk to anybody, and you know, you are a very crafty guy. Like you're very resourceful. You're very knowledgeable. You know, do you think most of that came from your trade?
A lot of it. I guess some of it I was born with. Nobody else in my family is mechanically inclined. I always said there's two kinds of people. There's people that look at something and give you reasons why you can't do something, and there's people that you look at something and start working through a list of reasons or ways that you can do something. And it boils down to if you want to do it or not. And if you want to do it bad enough, you'll find a way. And the more you know, the more you do, the more places you go, the more different things you see.
Yeah. The
more versatility in life you have.
Sure.
You can branch out and go anywhere and be comfortable.
Yeah.
So I could imagine a world tour on your sailboat would really open up a lot of horizons to yourself for knowledge and just, you know, generally personal growth.
Yeah.
So it seemed like it would be a very fruitful way to live a life.
Well, I think you said personal growth, because I mean, you have to be also willing to accept help, you know, in some situations like that. Like if you don't know how to fix your boat or something and you're in a place where, you know, there's people around, like you have to kind of, I think you have to drop your ego or whatever you have.
Absolutely.
Maybe you had that on, you know, your normal life. You were kind of an ego guy or something, or gal or whatever. But, you know, being able to drop your ego and accept help and accept, you know, when you stop learning or deciding that you can learn from something, I mean, that's kind of the end of it for you.
That's when it's time to lay down and die.
Yeah.
You know, you learn your whole life. And when you shut yourself off from that, you're pretty much shutting yourself off from, you know, learning and life in general. There's always something to learn for everybody. Even if you're an expert on something, you meet somebody that's also learning in that area, they can probably teach you a different way of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
May or may not be better, but it's free to listen. It's free to learn.
Yeah.
So it's up to you as to how much you want to absorb.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, if you can teach what you know, that changes the angle on what you know as well. You know what I mean?
And it makes you a more well-rounded person. You know, you can't always take. You can't always go to people and take, and you know, you have to give.
Yeah. And
as far as being like an ego person, you're out in the middle of the ocean and you need help. I don't think it'd be a big problem to watch that ego go by the wayside. Let it blow away in the wind, and you accept somebody for the greater knowledge you have on whatever subject you're floundering on.
Yeah.
And you know, it seems to me win-win. You come back a much better person.
I hear that perspective from a lot of these guys that, you know, again, I read and I totally nerd out on these guys sailing in the ocean and stuff, but I hear that a lot when you see land disappear for the first time, you know, and you continue to head away from it. It starts stripping away, along with land leaving, it starts stripping away a lot of stuff, man. Mostly negative things, people say. You know, it just, like, you just start realizing maybe what's important, you know, and you get some maybe different perspectives on things. And I think anytime you do something that takes you out of your comfort zone, it has that ability to, you know, obviously to build your character, but I think you have the opportunity to leave something negative behind, you know.
Well, things become much more important when you center your life in some endeavor like that. And the things that were important yesterday, suddenly, like you said, when the land goes by in the rearview mirror and it's gone, that's not your life anymore.
Yeah.
Your life literally is every day doing what you have to do, doing it right, and continue to do it right, and continue to do it every day. And I'm sure it will be a confidence builder. It'd be scary, I'm sure. I'm sure to pull up that anchor and head across the waterway. I mean,
you probably have a lot of second thoughts as you're leaving the harbor.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but seems like a well worthwhile endeavor.
For sure.
You know.
Yeah, and you know, people talk about getting caught in hurricanes and this kind of stuff. With today's, like, your route planning and the stuff you do and the time you do it, there's so much information out there. They say that most of these people that get caught in these bad situations, you know, not just a bad squall, but like a real hurricane, it was more negligence than anything because of the information, the technology that's out there. Like, the forecasts are getting more and more accurate out to further points, you know, out to further time. And so most situations are kind of negligent.
A lot of things in life you can get by being negligent of. But when you're in a situation like that, you probably or may not get a second chance.
Yeah.
So to be proactive, if you wait till the shit hits the fan, literally, it might well be too late.
Yeah.
So that's not an option. You must be proactive and on it.
Yeah.
And I think that would be part of the adventure. That would be part of the excitement, not the day-to-day, just the day-to-day nuts and bolts of sailing, but forecast for yourself what's ahead of you, what way would be best. We could make better time this way,
Sure.
but there might be weather. This way might be slower, but it looks clearer. And
all that goes into it.
Personal decisions to be made on a daily basis. And success is the necessary outcome.
Well, see,
not hoping for success. You need it to be successful.
Yeah. No, it's not. The ocean's not too forgiving.
Well,
it's taking
due diligence will take care of you in the long run.
Yeah. Well, a lot of time in even the construction of the boats these days, a lot of times they say, like, the man will break before the boat.
That's good to know.
It is.
If I'm the weak link, then all I got to do is pony up and do my
I
part.
Keep my shit together. Yeah. Well, I have a different question for you, kind of changing the course.
Yep.
We were talking, you grew up or came from a generation where, I mean, you were an iron worker your whole life.
Yep. 30 plus years.
30 plus years working out in Pittsburgh, putting up steel, working. I mean, would you say that was kind of a normal job during the time? And not necessarily normal, but
no, not normal in the view that it's a normal work. It's extremely strenuous. It's not a continuous employment. I've been laid off hundreds of times in my life. I've had hundreds of jobs. When a job finishes, if they don't have another one to go to, they lay you off. And at first that was a bit much to accept. But as I got into the rhythm of the business, you never get mad at somebody for giving you a check. Mm-hmm. And even if it's a paycheck or a layoff check. Mm-hmm. So you don't get mad at someone that lays you off. And as you start to gain experience in the business and you've been around, you can see when things are slowing and finishing up. And we have a thing that's called dragging up. And if there was only a few days left in the job, but another big job was starting, you would drag up and go to that. But lots of times when you're young in the business, you don't have the work connections and they catch you flat-footed. You don't have another job planned, so they lay you off. Now you're scrambling looking for a job. But being the life I've led, I've worked as a hunting guide and hunted for months on end, lots of places throughout the country and been to Africa, actually. So I kind of played it to my advantage.
Yeah.
And I ended up really loving the business. And you meet some great people, rainmaking people that make it happen, people that you wouldn't hesitate to put your life in their hands. And it sounds a little corny, but it's a day-to-day thing. You go up there and one wrong step, or somebody else for that matter taking a wrong step, could end your life. So it's a serious approach to a job, and short of like maybe a lumberjack or a cop or something, there's not a lot of jobs you go to every day where you have a genuine chance of not coming home.
Sure.
So you really had to have that world sailing mindset about you, because you need to make it to the end of the day. Your family's dependent on you. You need to make it to the end of the year. You need to make the end of your career. And had some injuries and stuff along the way, but nothing too serious. And I was glad I did it. I'm living a nice, comfortable retirement now, traveling the country, hunting a lot, and it's spectacular. It's a hard life that I earned my way where I'm at now, and I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah.
Really enjoying it.
And so if you look at, I guess that question leads into, me and you and Jessup were talking about earlier how, what we're able to do now to make a living, compared to maybe like that's hard work that you were doing, and the fact that some people can maybe try to, like, they can make a living on YouTube or in the digital world, that's just maybe where the world turned, like, do you see a flaw in that?
Yeah, I see a serious flaw. The flaw I see is that technology didn't overtake us 30 years ago. Back in my time when I was a young man, when we wanted to make a phone call, you had to have change and find a phone booth. Now you drive down the road, everybody in every car's got a phone. Most of them are on it. And it isn't just that, though. The technology, the world knowledge you have in your hand on a device it's unbelievable. And smarter, younger people that have been brought up in this world and that, have mastered this kind of technology, so to speak, can manipulate it in their favor. And I guess maybe a little bit of jealousy.
Yeah.
But, I'm totally impressed.
Yeah. Totally
impressed. Like the little guy I was helping on a horse 30 years ago now is a YouTube guy and talking about sailing the world, and it's spectacular. I'm totally overwhelmed with pride and joy knowing someone like that.
Yeah.
I'm an older person. I don't know no younger guys that are YouTubers and stuff, but it's awesome. It's awesome to know and hear that you guys are doing it and you're successful, and just looking at the kind of life you guys live. It's really cool. I'm impressed.
Yeah. And that's honestly really refreshing to hear, in a sense, because I think maybe, guys in my generation, or maybe people who are trying to go into more of that tech world, or kind of the not social media world, but just maybe trying to make it in that world a little bit, because I also grew up around guys like you, right, in these perspectives of this hard physical labor, and I've done my share of physical labor jobs, and so it's this funny, it's kind of like this funny area that I find myself in between, like, if I say, oh, I'm working hard today, and if I'm out on the docks working and we're driving spikes and that kind of stuff, that feels like a hard day's work, right? But maybe the same hard day's work might be somebody who sat on their computer for 4 hours, and that to them in today's age was a hard day's work. And it's this weird, and maybe you could back me up on this, I think maybe there is a flaw I think there's character that's built out of actual physical hard work.
Well, there's character built out of making a living for yourself.
Yeah.
So that being said, whether you're an iron worker, you're a truck driver, you're a YouTuber, everybody has something in common.
Yeah.
They have bills to pay. They need a roof over their head. They need to eat it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And, kudos to those that can do it easier than I did.
Sure.
That's all I knew then.
Yeah.
And that's still all I know now. It's not a black and white line, young generation to older people. All us older people worked hard jobs. There's tech-savvy people, older, like myself. But you don't see as much of, I don't see it anyhow, as much success doing things like you're doing, with every young person. There's a lot of young people that don't have any work ethic and don't want to do anything.
Right.
You know, but how can you argue with someone that's doing something, they're making a living, they're making their way?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
it might just be jealousy that you don't like it.
No.
You know, but I mean, how can you argue with it? They're doing the same thing you're doing. They're just taking a different path.
Yeah. I think that's such a good perspective that you have. And I don't mean to bring up like your age or your generation, but and maybe it's like a misconception. Maybe it's a misconception that our generation has about maybe an older generation that thinks that, well, this generation's lazy and they don't want to work like we did, you know? But I just think you have like really a good perspective on it. Maybe that I didn't even see when you're like, well, everybody's working and they're all, like you said, everybody's got bills, and how you make that and how you meet that is going to be different for everybody.
The same word means different things to different people.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, for somebody that does a physical job, a hard day's work where your back's hurts and you're sweaty at the end of the day, that's a day's work. Somebody that's got things going on and they're on the computer all day and they're back and forth on the phone and stuff, I mean, they're just sitting there punching keys, but I mean, they're making a living.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, they're paying their bills, they're eating, they're driving a vehicle, they're putting gas in it, they're doing the same thing that I'm doing. They just took a different path to do it.
Yeah.
So maybe a little bit of jealousy does enter in there that you're doing what I did, but you're doing it a lot easier. So I'm thinking, am I really that stupid that I couldn't have done that? But, you know, it's a little bit of a different time, like I said, with the technology. And
I think just the opportunity maybe that, like, who knows if you would have fallen into a different opportunity, because you're one of the hardest working guys that I know, you know, and you truly know what it means to work hard. Like you've said too, though, like, you like to kind of stay busy, you know, and I think you probably could have done anything in your life and been very successful at it.
My grandfather told me when I was a young man, he says, your body's like a machine. And he was a generation before me, 2 generations actually, but it's like a machine. If you sit and you don't do anything, it'll rust up, and pretty soon you won't be able to do anything. So I've always had that mindset just to stay busy, whether I'm working for pay, working around the house, doing whatever I do, even riding a motorcycle for enjoyment. You know, coming across country, if you've never done it, it's a stroke of business. I guarantee you, not everybody can do it.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to do, but it's a fulfilling thing to do. You set a goal and you strive ahead. I mean, pain and being tired, that's not your enemy. That's part of your success. And if you don't embrace it as such, you won't love what you're doing. And it's worked out well for me. But I'm seeing a different perspective on things, you know, coming out and visiting you and Jessup, and it's way cool. It's way cool. You know, I thought I was on it when I was working and making good money and making a good living and working toward a good pension. And I thought that was the way to do it. But now I'm seeing other ways to do it, and it's not a stereotyped person that I'm pointing at and scowling at and looking, but it's someone I've known and loved all my life and watching them do it. And it's happiness and pride in my heart. It really is. And it's so enjoyable to me. I'll take this back with me. I'll have it forever. Nobody can take that off of me. Yeah. You know, and it's good to see the people you care about be happy and be successful. Yeah. Because life's no dress rehearsal. Mm-hmm. At the end of the road, they dig a hole and they kick you in it, or they burn you. So nobody makes it out of this alive. So it's up to you to make of it what you want to make of it. Yeah. So,
and I think that resonates with me a lot, just as far as, you know, I don't know why, but it just seems, I see and just like you see the same thing that I do, but I see the people around me that I grew up with from when I was very little getting a little bit older, you know, and
the lucky ones get older.
The lucky ones,
the unlucky ones die young.
Yeah.
So the lucky ones get older, whether you're thriving or not.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm sure, you know, we both have people and friends and buddies who have passed away, you know, before maybe they were done. They had a lot more to give. And it's just, you get these little reminders. And if you don't do something with those reminders, as far as maybe making the most out of your life and doing the best you can, you're missing some seriously good messages.
You're selling yourself short.
Yeah.
You know, I hear every day, I'm 63 years old, and I hear every day guys in their 50s and 60s, people in general, not just men, but dying. And it's not unusual. You hear it every day on the news. And if that don't kick you in the ass to do the things you want to do, and you don't have to conquer the world, but go outside or go to the edge of your comfort zone a little bit and push it a little bit more till you're nervous about something, not sure if you're going to make it, and then you're excited if you do. And that's called living.
Do you think still at 63, like you kind of like to push that a little bit? I would
Absolutely.
say, I mean, you're riding a Harley down the interstate. Seems pretty like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Does that just give you that maybe living feeling a little bit?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. You know, going down the highway, hundreds and hundreds of miles every day, day after day after day, it's a grind. But, you know, getting toward the end of the day, coming west, and I'm tired. I probably got 600-700 miles under me by then. I'm looking for a restaurant or a hotel for the night, and the sun's getting low in the sky, and there's nothing in my life more badass than feet up on the foot pegs, hands on the bars, and barreling down the interstate.
Yeah.
With that Harley roaring underneath you. That's living to me.
Yeah.
That is living.
What kind of bike do you have?
I have a Ultra Classic, Harley Davidson Ultra Classic 2016.
Yeah.
And I ride it a lot. I got 85,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
And I'll trade it when I get 100 on it. Probably next year sometime. I'll trade it for a new one.
So, you know, Bobby and his wife ride.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
They have bikes, and they always go maybe down to the local watering hole and stuff. And do you find that, like, that community, I think people who don't ride probably are intimidated by bikers. You know, like, there's this persona of, like, these badass bikers.
Yeah,
and, like,
there's some of that.
Yeah.
But for myself, you know, I engage with people. People comment, and boy, it's awful cold tonight. You know, well, you know, that's what I love.
Yeah.
I love to do. And if there's not ice on the ground, I ride. I ride year round. But they're friendly. You know, coming across the country at the gas pumps and stopping in a hotel.
other riders.
Oh yeah, and just right away you can strike up a conversation. You're on the same page. Where you coming from? Where you going to? What'd you see? What do I look for if you're coming the opposite direction? And it's, you know, that's your community when you're traveling.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know anybody, and for days on end, many times, the only people you talk to is people at the gas pumps and people at the restaurant where you eat that night.
Yeah.
You know, and
Other bikers.
right,
Yeah.
right. So then you're back in the saddle in the morning and starting down there again, sitting out by the gas pumps, drinking a coffee, eating a honey bun or something. You know.
Do you feel like it's like bikers are more receptive to other bikers, like approaching them, versus like if you walked into a Denny's and there's a couple big, you know, hard looking biker guys sitting in a booth and they saw you pull up on your bike, are they probably going to give you the head nod before they, like the guy who pulled out of the Tesla?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. See?
Absolutely.
So the truth
Absolutely.
is,
Yeah, you can spot them people. And, you know, bikers has a bad thing. And then there's a lot of guys, they call them 1%ers. And that's because 99% of the people on bikes are normal, cool, everyday people. And you get the hard 1%, and not all of them, but a lot of them are, you know, gangsters, criminals, you know, and if that's the kind of life you want to lead, I don't really think it matters what your mode of transportation is, but that's a stereotype.
Sure.
But you know what to look for and where to go and where not to go. And I don't, life's too short to play that game.
Yeah.
And I'm not a crook. I'm not a criminal. I won't do anything that's going to get me locked up in jail. They're not going to lock you up for speeding, which I probably do every time I'm on it, you know. But, it's an easy bunch of people to talk to.
Yeah.
So it's comfortable. It's nice.
That's honestly, you know, now that we're talking about it, that's just true for really any genre you want to pick, right? If a boater pulls up to the dock and he's got his sailboat, guess what? Other sailboaters come up and talk to him.
You don't need to know what he does for a living, where he lives, but
Nice
you know
boat.
right away.
Yeah.
that he enjoys something you enjoy. You have common ground.
Sure.
So you can strike up a conversation as long as you want to carry it on the stuff you know each other is knowledgeable about.
Yeah.
So, and even if you're not totally knowledgeable, maybe you'll pick up some info or some tips from a different person. Like I said before, if you're an expert on sailing, well, maybe this guy does it a little bit different, and well, maybe that is a little better, or maybe not. But it doesn't cost nothing to listen and learn.
Yeah.
And it's part of life. It's life in general. What you make of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a fulfilling life. I intentionally keep it hard so that you know when you have a success, you've earned it, and you feel good, and you have a sense of accomplishment, and that carries a lot of weight. It really does for me. You know.
What's the? Have you ever had like a really scary scary situation on the bike?
Yeah, I'm not going to say all the time, but often, and I think it's. You know, sometimes people, and motorcycle isn't as big of a profile as a vehicle. So a lot of times people pull up to an intersection, give a quick glance, they don't see nothing, they pull out.
Yeah.
So you know to look for that stuff. And it's incumbent on the rider to be proactive in expecting that and being prepared to deal with that. But one thing I've seen a number of times on this trip, and it happens every trip, but talking about recent experiences, you'll be passing a truck on the interstate, and the truck driver they're always looking in their mirrors. I drive a truck too, so I know they're always looking in their mirrors, and I think they look in the mirror and they see the bikes rolling, and it's pretty cool looking. Everybody's in leather and they're barreling along and stuff, and they look and they start to drift into your lane.
Sure.
Well, the bike's loaded. It's too heavy to accelerate fast to get away from them. Your fastest option would be jam the brakes on. If they're coming in your lane, but they're not coming in your lane to change lanes. They're just drifting over because they're not paying attention. They're watching you in the mirror, and it ends up being they're crowding you in your lane. And that happened a couple times this trip. But you keep that in your mind. And when you travel in a group is when it's especially dangerous, because if something starts to happen, I'm going to do everything I can to avoid it. Well, if I do something to avoid it and I say jam my brakes on and the guys behind me don't realize it or aren't prepared for that, now we're causing a crash in our lane. And the cause of it's going to go down the right lane and keep going.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can't go to sleep.
Yeah.
You can't just zone out. Sometimes you can, but not very often. The highway's always got something to look at. Whether there's any traffic on it or not, you got to watch the highway. There might be critters, might be debris. So it keeps you engaged. It better keep you engaged or you don't make it for the long haul on these trips. So
you never had one certain situation that like really just scared the hell out of you or nothing?
I've had many.
Oh, okay.
I've had many.
Okay.
You know, I mean,
but not one stood out.
No. It's not rare, but it's I'm not going to say it's common, but it's not rare. So it's something you have to be prepared for, and it's just something that goes with it.
Yeah.
And it's part of it. You know, when you ride a horse in the high country, we've elk hunted many times together up in the high country and been bucked off a number of times, and horses stumble and go down, and that's stuff you can't foresee, but you got to, you can't bury your foot in a stirrup. You keep your tips of your toes or the balls of your feet, and you have to set yourself up for escape, whatever you're doing, to protect yourself. And you may never need that, but, it only takes one time to get seriously hurt or worse. So, the odds are against you. As far as being hurt, and you just do what you got to do to stay ahead of that 8 ball.
Yeah.
Because your number comes up, but it helps to be lucky sometimes too.
Yeah, rather be lucky than good, right?
I'd take it every day to win.
Yeah. So do you have any big goals or anything? I mean, so you're 63, right? I personally think you got a lot of life to live.
I do too. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking.
I mean, really?
I'm hoping. Yeah. I'm in decent shape for my age, but you never know. But no life goals. I'm actually living my life goal. I'm hunting all the time. I fish. I love to shoot. I love to ride my motorcycle, and I finally have enough money to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
I got pensions and stuff coming in, and I'm finally to the place that I should be relaxing more, but that's not how I lived my life.
Yeah.
And
well, that's where you see, I think, that's where maybe you could tell somebody like, well, maybe you don't have that long to live when you start really just sitting down,
like the machine that rusts up, like
Yeah.
my grandpa said. And I've seen it where guys, they work hard all their life and they retire and they sit in a bar and they start running around and they have family troubles and health problems. And more than once I've seen a couple years are gone.
Mm-hmm.
They're gone. So I guess I'm afraid to die.
Yeah.
I don't want to die.
Well, life's pretty good.
Life is good. And it's only what you make of it. And nobody's going to care about you or your life more than you will.
Yeah.
And if you aren't willing to take the bull by the horns, and you don't got to bulldog them, you don't got to ride them, you don't got to beat them.
Yeah.
But as long as you're trying, and you got it in your heart that you've tried, and you feel a sense of accomplishment with whatever you have tried to do, then it's fulfilling and it's worthwhile to live, and it spurs you on to keep doing that.
Yeah.
And when the hand of fate comes, well, the hand of fate comes.
Yeah.
I've
been having this thought lately, and I said it earlier, but it's only when you start talking about death, and really in America, it's like taboo. It's so morbid to talk about death or dying, but in a lot of the world, it's just part of life, right?
Well, it is.
Everybody's going to die.
Nobody makes it out of this alive.
But I think of it like, I had this view and I was thinking of it. It's like, imagine the scariest ride that you could ever imagine that you were going to, and maybe it's this tall roller coaster, and it goes up into the sky, and you like take this elevator all the way up to it, and you're looking down and you can see all the way down, right? And you see the cities down there, and you know that this thing just drops straight down, all the way down. You have to get on that ride. Let's call that roller coaster death. It's something that you have to get on one day. That's a ride. And whether it happens to you like that, or it's something that's slow and you have to accept it, it's a ride that you have to get on. But how you're going to look at that ride, how you're going to look at that is maybe that's going to be for every individual, and I think a lot of it will have to do with how you lived your life, will be how you accept your death.
Yeah, that's pretty deep.
Yeah, maybe you need more beers for that.
I'm going to have more beers whether we talk about that or not.
No, but I think that goes into that conversation of just.
Well, as far as like that kind of subject goes, if we're sitting here talking and I tip over dead, I would hope that people would say, "Oh my God, it was so sudden and he was gone, and he was just so healthy." But for me, it's good. The lights went out and it's done.
Yeah.
But when you have an
illness,
slow onset, and the person, the subject, suffers and just drags on and just slowly unwinds, and well, it's worse for them. But everybody around them can see the inevitable. Everybody knows the end result, so they can prepare themselves. So it's kind of the only thing that's up in the air really is who's going to be more hurt, inconvenienced, bummed out by the inevitable. Yeah. I mean, I'm
by all
short
the people
of
that are still living.
Yeah. So short of taking care of things yourself, you don't have no choice. So it is what it is, and go to the plate and swing for a homer every time.
Yeah.
I mean, if I whiff and go back to the dugout, well, that's the way it is. If I hit a home run, well, you go around till next year or whatever. So,
and it goes by so fast. I think it
does go by fast.
It's so important. It's just so important to, just enjoy your life the best you can. Try to be a good person, I guess. And
we talked about it earlier, but when I was a young man, I can remember you was a little kid, and we were up elk hunting, and putting a log beside the horse so you could step up on to get up on the horse is where we were at then. And it's like I closed my eyes that night, went to sleep, and I woke up the next day. Now I'm 63 years old, and I'm talking to a grown man talking about sailing the world, and has so vast a knowledge on new things that are either intimidating to me or I don't know them just by virtue of not dabbling in them. And it goes by in a flash. It really, really does. So what you're doing, I'd say you're on the right path, because, you don't want to die one day. Two things you don't want to die. You don't want to die with $1 million in the bank, and you don't want to die saying, man, I wish I'd have done that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, hate to keep saying it, but it's what you make of it.
Yeah.
And if you want to live a comfortable, safe life, that's totally up to you, but that's not really living that life. That's existing.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's up to the individual. You see how a lot of people go extremes both ways. So I guess the bottom line is you want to be happy. As long as you're happy and healthy, doing what you want to do, what more could you ask for from life?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a great ride. It's a great ride. And it all ain't roses and sunshine.
No.
You have to have the hard times. Otherwise you'll never know or even appreciate when you're in good times. If all your times are good times, where's your dips and valleys?
Sure.
Yeah.
We've kind of adapted this mindset and this thought since we started ultra running. During these long races, and I've heard Bobby say it before, but he says you live a lifetime of emotions in these races. And one thing that we always try to remember, especially when we're out there running and, we're doing these runs, you'll go through these moments in these races that it's just, you're at absolute low. You don't know why you're out there. You don't know why you're doing it. But then maybe 5 or 10 minutes later, all of a sudden you like have some weird high come back and you realize why you're out there, why you're doing it. Yeah, you're there for the challenge, for the test. Maybe you start thinking about your family and like, I was out there. My last shot, I didn't make it my last shot at 100 miles. I made it 75 miles. But even at that distance, I was having because not only is your body getting just physically just slammed, but you probably have some kind of nutrition deficiencies and stuff. And anyways, I saw Waylon at one of the aid stations, man. And when I left that aid station, I just started crying, and I was just so happy that my son was there and getting to watch his dad try something hard, and hoping that maybe he looks at it one day and knows that it's okay to. I don't know. It was just. But the point is that we take this idea that when we're in that race and you go through that low time, just keep going. That it's going to get better. It's going to get better. You take that same thing, you apply it to life,
Exactly.
Like, yeah, man, shit sucks right now. It's
just what I was just saying, the highs and the lows of life in general.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be something as spectacular or as physically demanding as that. But,
no.
Every day ain't sunshine.
No.
And there's rain, and that's part of life.
Yeah.
And you just embrace it, you deal with it, you get by it, and you move on, and you continue the ride.
I think you can become more. If you can have the perspective and the foresight to know that it will get better, no matter how bad it is. If you can keep that in your mind that this too will pass. It will just make you a more resilient person to get through that shit the best you can, do the best you can getting through it. It's going whatever it is, it's hard, but it's going to get better. And you're going to see a brighter day again.
Well, it has to be in your mind that it gets better, because whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So, even if you're having a hard time and it's beating you up, and you said you didn't make the last finish, you only came 75 miles. I challenge anybody to call running 75 miles a failure. So, it's all in the perspective you look at it.
Oh, totally.
And, that's pushing deep into your inner core, and you're really seeing who you are.
Yeah.
And going along, sometimes, like you said, you get in your dips and you might not like it, and you might not like why you're doing it or what's this all about? Why am I putting myself through this? And just for nothing other than personal satisfaction. But it's up to the individual. And that's a good philosophy to have for life, because it applies every day for everybody, whether you realize it or not. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's a hell of a thing that I could never have imagined doing, even in my heyday, you know, but.
Yeah. But I mean, if we're on the actual subject of ultra running, and that's what you want to talk about, I think it really is something that everybody can do. It's not like you're not a special athlete. There are some very exceptional athletes out there that absolutely crush ultra running. They are, you know, they run these distances in incredible times, and their mental fortitude to do it is incredible. But you're not special. We always say this all the time, like, we're not special people that can go do this thing. I mean, you think about all the people out there who have actually survived very hard situations, whether it's maybe it was an accident in the mountains. You hear stories all the time, or maybe a POW, or these stories, you know.
Or something as simple as a storm.
A storm.
Or an automobile accident. I mean, just things.
There's people who endure stuff or have endured stuff much, much harder than this. You know, I mean, this is a totally different situation, but, you know, ultra running, you don't have to be special to do it. You just have to want to do it, I think. And then, yes, there's a little bit of training required, I think.
A little bit.
And some luck, actually. A little bit of training.
Luck's always good. Luck's always good. But you know what? The harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in sports, in life in general, just in making a living.
Yeah.
You know, you work hard, and things don't always go your way. In fact, things seldom go your way, you know, but it's what you make of it. And, you know, when the sun shines, you make hay.
Yeah.
And, you know, you got to embrace and find something good in everything you do. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you'll always be down and out and crying things ain't going your way. But
yeah,
that's just as much of life as success and happiness.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got to take the whole ball of wax.
Well, you look at kind of the situation we have here, you know, and we have a pretty awesome gig that we have here.
You really do.
You know, but that doesn't mean that we don't have times where we're just bummed, you know?
Well, sure.
You know, just bummed.
It's
like
life. We just said that. It's life.
You can wake up and come out and look and have coffee and look at over the boats, over the lake and stuff. And for whatever reason, that day it just don't look that pretty, you know? And it's just so weird sometimes where you want to just ride those highs, you know, you want that, but they're just not always there, you know? And it's just, sometimes it's hard to pull yourself out of that kind of stuff.
You're right. Well, you know, a basic philosophy I live with every day, and the older you get more aches and pains, and you can't do the hardest thing I've had to accept isn't my physical liabilities. It's accepting my mental state of accepting that I can't do that. Mm. And, you know, when you wake up in pain every day, you can't sleep no more because your back hurts, your knees hurt, your hands hurt. Well, the key word is you woke up.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of souls that, you know, they say hell to get old, but you know what? I'll take it every day of the week. There's a lot of souls that haven't been as lucky as me and be able to get to be 63 years old or even less than that. So you got to be thankful for what you have. And if you can't see something good in it, well, you might be to the end of your road.
Yeah.
You know, because it's downhill if you can't find something good about life in general. You know, and I'm not on top of the game.
Yeah.
I still have days. I live alone. I have a dog, but I live alone, and it's lonely a lot of times. You need a hand on something. There's nobody around, and get you down sometimes, you know. But you know, life is good. Life is good. You just go out and you do something that makes you happy, no matter what it is. If it's go get an ice cream cone, or go get a beer, or go take a ride on your bike, or go fishing, or whatever you want to do. Go stop and take a look at something. Drive through the country, smell some fresh cut hay or something. You know, there's lots of good to be found, but you got to be looking for it.
You got to be proactive.
Right.
I just listened to a podcast with a guy who is I think it's a centritarian. Is that 100? If you're over 100?
I don't know.
What, a century?
Yeah.
Centritarian?
Okay.
I think that's what he was.
Sounds like a diet.
Yeah. You on that centritarian diet?
I can't eat it. I'm a centritarian.
Actually, this guy was on a centritarian diet. He did say the reason he is able to live as long as he has was because he changed his diet. He got diagnosed with colon cancer at like 60 something, and completely changed the diet to a vegan diet. He went all veggies, and that's why he said that he made it. But I wasn't bringing him up to bring up the diet, which I do think is important. But one of his things that he said gets him by every day was that he still has purpose, and that he found something in his life that he felt like he could give back to others. It wasn't about him. You don't live to be 100 being selfish and thinking about yourself. You live to be 100 by thinking about others and finding purpose and reason, you know. And part of that was finding kind of he said he has a lot of friends and a lot of people that he feels close with, and having that community is important. You know, being a hermit isn't a good thing, you know, and most of the time those guys die alone. And like, I'm an introvert. I'm definitely an introvert. You may not know it, but I tell people this: I'm personable, but I'm not sociable. So meaning I don't like going to parties. I don't like groups of people, but I can sit here and have a great conversation with you, you know, and people that I really enjoy to be around.
Well, I don't know the label, but I'm the same way. I the introvert, whatever, but even people I know, if it's someone that I don't see all the time, I mean, not like you, we're like family as far as that goes, but I'll just sit there. I won't approach people, and I'll talk to anybody that talks, you know, wants to talk. But yeah, I typically I'm all right being by myself.
Yeah,
you know, and I and it's just I think that's something that's kind of crippled me my life. It's hard for me to meet new people. It's hard for me to meet women, to approach people, and you know, when someone starts talking, it's easy for me.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm the same way. If I drive into the parking lot, get off the bike, and there's people standing all around, I'll go about my business. Someone says something, I'll strike up a conversation. I'm friendly and engaging and stuff. But to actually break that ice, it's difficult for me, and I'm all right with that.
Yeah.
But it leaves you alone a lot.
Sure.
It really does. But it's how I'm made up. What are you gonna do?
I know.
You know,
I'm the same way. There's a study out there. I think it's called the Blue Zone. Have you ever heard of this?
Mm-mm.
It was a massive worldwide study, and they looked at the areas on the planet that had the people who lived the longest in different regions and stuff. And a lot of these cultures that they found in these studies, the one thing that they all had in common, regardless if they ate a Mediterranean diet or whatever food they were eating, a lot of things that they had in common was a village type community, you know, and that meant the grandparents were still in the picture with the kids and the grandkids, and these communities in these small, tight, you know, and these are across the whole globe. The communities that live the longest are truly like these whole communities, you know, these
like a village.
Yeah. And I think there's probably a lot to that, you know, and me and Jessup had this conversation, and it's funny because and I don't know if it's for the first time, and maybe it's just our culture, but it's almost like you're kind of sometimes you're shunned or maybe looked at weird if you ask for help from your family. Like, you should be doing it on your own, right? Like, you reach a certain age, you should be taking care of yourself and taking care of your family. You should be doing so. Asking for help is kind of looked like frowned upon, like, well, whereas in a lot of other cultures, like, they all kind of are still helping each other. The grandparents are still around to help raise the kids, and it's really in our culture where it's pushed that away and pushed that out and makes you feel like, you almost feel like, not that you can't, some families, like my family is great, and I feel like I can ask my family for help if I want, but still there is a cultural thing where it's like, no, you don't really go back to the nest.
Yeah. In my family, that stereotype is active.
Mm-hmm.
But, if somebody is out there working at it and trying,
Mm-hmm.
Not just sitting there and playing video games all day and doing drugs or drinking or whatever, and they're out there trying, well, that's the people you need to help.
Sure.
That's the people that are out there to succeed in life. But
well, my dad always said, we're willing to help you if you help yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's an across the board point of view.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody's struggling. I think it's a natural human instinct to go help them.
Yeah.
But if someone's just sitting there waiting for a handout, I think it's also a natural human instinct just to walk right by them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I think even with the families that are willing to help each other, I still think it's in our culture to not.
I agree. I agree with you.
To, like, you may be really I've gone through some pretty difficult times and I haven't asked for help just because maybe my own pride or whatever, but you just don't want to, you want to do it on your own. You want to figure it out,
I hear you.
And, I just think that's an interesting.
Well, life is a journey, and, we're all going to end up the same place. Some people take a smooth paved highway, nice, safe, easy, no risk taking, no outside your comfort envelope. And some people just want to live wide open, and, we all end up at the same place. Yeah. And I said before, what a shame it would be to die with $1 million in the bank, or, wishing you'd have done some things, because it is no dress rehearsal. This is it.
Yeah.
And then the lights go out, and what you believe after that point is up to every individual. But from what I've seen, when the lights go out, I never seen nobody come back.
Yeah.
So this is the show. This ain't the dress rehearsal. This is the take.
If you were to give me any advice on what to do or how to continue living my life, or just some pointers in life, if you were to give me one pointer in life or one piece of advice that you think is something that I should have with me, what would you give me?
I would say no matter what you do, work hard. Work hard at it. Not necessarily physically or, mentally in specifically, but work hard. Work hard till you're exhausted. You've given everything you got. And when you lay your head down at night and you're satisfied of your accomplishments or the direction you're going, you'll have a happy life. And it's never let me down.
Yeah.
And I continue to do that. And I'm going to do it to the day I die.
Yeah.
I don't work for a living anymore. I'm retired. But I cut a lot of firewood. I help people on a couple different farms, fixing equipment, helping them bale hay. And I refuse the money. It's like an insult when they want to try to pay you, because I don't want to have to pay somebody if they do me a favor.
Sure.
So you go and you help people. And, when I go to bed tired at night, I feel good.
Yeah.
And if it's nothing more than cutting the grass and doing some weed whacking that day, then, I accomplished something and I feel good about myself. And it served me well.
Yeah.
It served me well. So no matter what you do, work hard at it, and you'll be satisfied. And you're the one that has to be satisfied to credit this life as a success or a failure.
Yeah.
Nobody but you. Nobody but you makes a difference on judging your life, you or your life.
And I think we leave a lot on the table as far as our own potentials, you know? Like, I think about how many hours a day or something maybe that I waste that I could have been doing something better or something, you know? I guess I'm my own worst critic.
Well, you're young enough still that that kind of fire in your belly will serve you right.
Yeah.
I'm kind of backed off a little bit from that because I'm not so concerned with making a living and setting myself up for later in life. But that perspective will change on you as you get older. But you got a lot of life to live yet. Yeah. So keep that fire lit, and you'll be going down a handsome road in your future, I'm sure.
Well, shit, man. I not only appreciate you talking with me this evening, you know, we went and had an awesome dinner, and then on the way home, I was like, you know, I thought it'd be cool to do a podcast with Tom, and then Jessup's like, well, trust me, you're going to want to do it because we're going to have this conversation forever. We'll have this piece, you know, we'll have it forever. It'll be fun to sit back on and watch, and there are so many stories and things that we didn't even talk about this evening, but it was just good to sit down and bullshit with you. But I'm thankful that you made the effort to drive all the way over from Pennsylvania, you know, do the loop and put us in your plans and come all the way up here to Bayview and, you know, meet my family, meet Waylon, you know, and Kinsey and hang out with us here at the house. I really appreciate it.
Well, with everything in life, I set myself up for a reward. And I love you. I've known you all your life. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to me. I'm glad that you're glad. So
I appreciate that, Tom. All right, man. Well, it was good chatting with you tonight.
Nice chatting with you. Let's do it again sometime.
I need to come out to Pennsylvania and we'll do it.
I got some shit for you.
Yeah.
Come on down.
Yeah, I'll come out to Pennsylvania and do some deer hunting.
Right on, man.
All right, Tom.
Anytime. All right.
Thanks, buddy.
Good night.